legally, not ethically, not even logistically. Without me, the contract collapses. That truth hit me slow and hard. Ryan hadn't even read the fine print before firing me. He had no clue what he'd done. Suddenly, the sting of betrayal gave way to something colder, power. He'd pulled the trigger without looking, and now he was staring down the barrel. Mr. Cole ended the call without another word. The silence left in his wake was louder than any shouting. I sat motionless on my couch, coffee untouched and cold. 11 years tossed aside by a boy playing dress-up in his father's office. I leaned back and laughed. Not a joyful laugh, a bitter, knowing one. This wasn't a company anymore. It was a circus run by a reckless child who thought leadership was just another level in a game. But this wasn't a simulation, and he was about to lose. Part of me wanted to get up, walk into that office, and watch the fallout unfold in real time. But another part, the part that had stayed late, missed birthdays, buried my pride, that part wanted to let it burn. And burn it did. At 10:13, my phone lit up. Ryan. I let it go to voicemail, then reception, then legal, then accounting. My screen buzzed like a Christmas tree on overdrive. I didn't answer a single call, just watched. Then the voicemail icon blinked. I hit play. Lily! Hi, it's Ryan. There was a misunderstanding. I might have acted too quickly. We need you back today. It's urgent. Please call me. Urgent. Not sorry. Not even a hollow, PR apology kind of sorry. Just panic in a suit. I sipped my cold coffee and stayed exactly where I was. At 10:32, a name I hadn't seen in years popped up. Nicole, an old friend from my department before she transferred to marketing. I picked up point one. Lily, she whispered, you will not believe what's happening. Ryan just got shredded. In front of everyone. My brow rose. Mr. Cole walked into the meeting, slapped the Kingswell file down, asked one question. Did you read this before firing Lily? Ryan tried to BS him. Something about restructuring. Mr. Cole didn't buy it. He flipped straight to the clause, you know the one. I did. Everyone did. Everyone but Ryan. You're the only person authorized to close Kingswell. It's in writing. Ryan looked like he'd seen a ghost. I exhaled. What did Mr. Cole say? Nicole lowered her voice. He told him, if this deal dies, so does your job. There it was. The first crack in Ryan's invincibility. Nicole paused. I don't know what you're planning, but whatever it is, you hold all the cards now. I ended the call with a quiet thank you, then stood. The city skyline outside my window looked peaceful. I always loved that about it, how life moves on, even when people are falling apart. At 11:15, another message came in, this time from Mr. Cole. Lily, I'm truly sorry for what happened. I misjudged the situation. Please come in. Not just for the deal, I'd like to talk, one-on-one. I stared at the screen. It was tempting. But I wasn't ready to pretend nothing had happened. This wasn't just about a contract. It was about respect, trust, time, and those things can't be fixed by a desperate phone call and a quiet apology. Not this time. I wasn't sure what walking back into that office would feel like, but I knew I wouldn't do it, as the same woman who'd been dismissed the day before. I didn't want revenge. What I wanted was recognition. Not just for my role in the Kingswell deal, but for 11 years of grit, growth, and grace. So I picked up my phone, opened a new message, and typed, I'll consider returning to complete the Kingswell negotiation under one condition, a private conversation with Mr. Cole first. No theatrics, just clarity. I hit send. I got dressed with intention. No blazer, no heels, just quiet confidence in every step. I walked through the front doors of the building, not the side employee entrance. Let them see me. Let them wonder. The receptionist's eyes widened the moment she saw me. Miss Harris, Mr. Cole is expecting you. This way, please. The walk down the hallway felt longer than I remembered. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. A silence settled like fog. I kept walking. Mr. Cole was already at his office door. "Lily," he said with a quiet nod, "thank you for coming." I didn't smile. I nodded back. He stepped aside. I walked in. The door closed. The office was still. "I made a mistake," he said, voice low. "I gave Ryan too much, too fast. I thought he'd rise to the occasion. Instead, he detonated it." I sat without speaking. He continued, "What he did was unprofessional. And the timing. It's cost us more than just time." I stayed quiet. "I reread your contract," he said. "Word for word, you were granted full authority on Kingswell after the Steel Ridge fallout. No substitutions, no overrides. It's ironclad, and Ryan never even opened it." "I know," I said. "You didn't deserve that treatment," he added. "And I want to offer your position back, with full control over Kingswell. Whatever terms you require, we'll meet them." I watched him for a moment. This wasn't just damage control. There was regret in his voice, and something deeper respect. "I'll come back," I said. "But only with a new contract, in writing, full autonomy, no interference from Ryan. And one more thing." He leaned forward. "Yes? This doesn't happen again. To me, to anyone." A pause. Then he nodded. "You have my word." I stood. The hallway was quiet when I stepped out. At the far end, Ryan leaned against the wall, pretending to chat with someone from accounting, but his eyes locked on mine the second I appeared. I didn't break stride. I didn't blink. And I saw it, that flicker in his gaze, the moment he realized his grip was slipping. By 1 p.m., the boardroom was set. Kingswell's team had arrived early. We had 20 minutes before the official start. I reviewed every document, every clause, every backup strategy. Mr. Saeed, Kingswell's CEO, was a sharp man with zero patience for uncertainty. One crack in the foundation, and the whole deal would collapse. I placed the translated contract across the table and glanced out through the glass wall. Ryan was pacing outside like a caged wolf. Mr. Cole intercepted him just in time. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. The gestures said it all. A tense exchange, a raised voice. Then Mr. Cole lifted one hand firm. Final. Ryan's jaw clenched, his face flushed. He turned and locked eyes with me. And then he left. At exactly 1:30, Mr. Saeed entered. I greeted him in Arabic. His face broke into a smile. "You remembered," he said, warmth in his voice. "Respect goes a long way." The meeting was smooth, strategic, decisive. 2 hours later, contracts were signed. Hands were shaken. And for the first time in days, I felt something settle inside me. Not closure, but power earned, reclaimed, and quiet as thunder. After the deal was signed, Mr. Cole approached me again. This time, the weight in his eyes was replaced with something that felt real relief. "You saved us," he said. "I owe you more than just an apology." I met his gaze. "You owe your company a leader," I replied. "One who understands the difference between holding power and earning it." He didn't argue. That evening, as I walked through the dimly lit parking garage toward my car, the pressure I'd carried for the last 48 hours started to loosen its grip. I hadn't just come back, I'd returned with clarity. I knew who I was now. Not just an employee, but someone whose value wasn't tied to a title or a paycheck, but to performance, principle, and presence. Still, I understood this wasn't the end. Ryan had been quiet all day. Men like him don't disappear. They reload. By the following week, the Kingswell deal was everywhere. Trade newsletters, internal memos, even a feature on a business podcast. The headline read, "Strategic Brilliance and Cultural Competence Secure Landmark Cross, Border Agreement." They didn't say my name, but inside the company, no one had questions about who pulled it off. My inbox filled with quiet praise DMs from junior analysts I'd mentored, even department heads who used to interrupt me mid-sentence now calling me a calm force under pressure. I thanked them politely. But I didn't forget. I knew the wind could shift again. The office atmosphere changed. There was laughter again in the kitchen. Someone brought donuts. Mr. Cole issued a formal memo. Ryan was being transitioned out of executive decision-making, a diplomatic phrase that meant he was benched. But I couldn't ignore the feeling in my gut. Something was off. It started with the expense report. The reimbursement from my Kingswell trip was suddenly under review. Then a proposal I submitted clear, compliant, and on time was returned unsigned, with no comments. A few days later, an overseas client emailed me, confused about a document they'd received from my account. It had incorrect terms, major ones. But I hadn't sent it. They trusted me enough to ask directly. I checked with IT. No breaches, no hacks. Their exact words. The email originated internally. That's when I knew. Ryan wasn't trying to get rid of me anymore. He was trying to dismantle me piece by piece, quietly, until doubt did the job he couldn't. It was the oldest play in the corporate sabotage handbook. Not loud. Not direct. Just subtle degradation. You don't fire them, you frustrate them into resigning. But I wasn't a rookie anymore. At 22, I might have crumbled. Now, I documented everything. Missed approvals, suspicious edits, conversations logged in a private journal with timestamps. I backed up my emails to a secure drive and started ceasing legal on anything even remotely sensitive. One afternoon, I passed the conference room and caught his voice. Ryan. He wasn't being careful anymore. She's not stable, he said, too loud for a room with a glass wall. She's been erratic, overly emotional since she returned. I don't think she's fit for client-facing roles anymore. I froze. He continued. Look, I'm just saying it's time we start succession planning for client services. She's burned out, maybe even dangerous. Another voice replied, one I didn't recognize. New, probably. Easily swayed. I backed away quietly, heart pounding but jaw clenched. So this was the next phase. Undermine. Mischaracterize. Remove. But what Ryan didn't know was this. I wasn't overextended. I was prepared. I didn't walk into that company to survive him. I came to outlast him. Executive? Maybe, someone said. But that client turnaround last quarter, that was her, under insane pressure. Ryan laughed dismissively. She got lucky. You can't build a company on luck. I stood frozen just outside the doorway, unseen but fully aware. My stomach didn't twist out of fear. What I felt was colder, sharper. He wasn't just undermining May, was strategically eroding trust. Quietly, efficiently, poisoning the air people breathed before they even realized it. That night, I stayed late. The building emptied out, the hum of voices replaced by the buzz of vending machines, and the city beyond the windows. I sat alone in the conference room, watching taillights streak down the freeway, wondering how many more landmines I'd have to cross just to do the job I was already good at. Then a voice pulled me out of my thoughts. You're still here? I turned. Mr. Cole stood in the doorway, coat over his arm. I gave a tired smile. Could say the same to you. He stepped in, placed a folder in front of me. Your revised contract, he said. Everything we discussed. Autonomy, protections. It's all there. I flipped through the pages. Clean language, strong terms. I gave a quiet nod. And, he added, I've authorized an internal review. Things are slipping through cracks that shouldn't exist. My eyes lifted. You think it's Ryan? His expression didn't change. Let's just say, I'm no longer pretending not to notice. Why haven't you acted sooner? I asked. He exhaled deeply, weariness showing in the lines of his face. Because I had to see who he really was, and who you really are. There was a pause. Then I said, You're protecting the company. No, he said. I'm trying to protect both of you, but it may already be too late for one. I closed the folder. Then it's time to choose what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he walked out. The next few days felt colder not because of weather, but because of what lingered between people. Conversations stopped when I entered a room. Some smiled politely, others avoided me completely. The audit had begun, and the walls were whispering. I didn't ask for the review, but a part of me was relieved. I needed what was hidden to be dragged into the light, not just for me, but for the ones who had swallowed their voices to survive. Still, I wasn't naive. In the corporate world, truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it signs your severance. Sometimes it's swept under performance reviews and exit interviews labeled personal decision. That Thursday, I was called into the audit team's temporary officer converted storage room, now packed with monitors, timelines, and binders full of digital forensics. David, the lead auditor, gestured to a chair. Lily, thanks for coming. We have some questions. I sat. He pulled up a screen. This email sent from your account. We traced it to a shared workstation near the kitchen. Manual login. No external breach. Whoever did this had your credentials. I folded my arms. I reported this last week. He nodded. You did. And that helped. We found more documents edited, timestamps altered, approvals vanished, all using your name, all from shared devices. My jaw tightened. So this is coordinated. He hesitated. Yes, and we've narrowed access down. There are digital patterns tied to Ryan's executive assistant's login. I sat in silence. He continued carefully. We're not making accusations yet, but there's enough here to warrant escalation. This isn't just mischief. It's calculated discrediting. I looked up. What happens next? That's where it gets political, he said. Mr. Cole asked for a direct briefing. No filters. I nodded. I'll be there. You're not required, he said gently. I will be there, I repeated. If this is going to surface, I'll face it, fully awake. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the people who'd left over the last year. Quiet goodbyes, polite LinkedIn updates, rising stars who vanished without noise. I used to think they just got better offers. Now I wondered if they just ran out of fight. I used to think it was just turnover. Now I wondered how many had been quietly pushed out casualties of Ryan's manipulations, not the market. I arrived at the executive boardroom early the next morning. Mr. Cole stood at the window, silhouetted against the skyline, looking like a man bracing for the collapse of something he'd once believed in. David and the audit team followed shortly after. Then, 10 minutes late, Ryan strolled in, phone in hand, wearing that trademark smirk. He froze when he saw me. She's not part of the audit committee, he said, a flicker of irritation behind his calm. She's here at my request, Mr. Cole replied without turning. Ryan shifted his stance. This was supposed to be internal, confidential. Then you shouldn't have used internal systems to stage a cover-up, I said, my tone even, but cold. Ryan let out a laugh, too loud. This is insane! You're grasping at straws! David stepped in. Actually, we've traced multiple irregularities logins from your assistant's credentials, all linked to sabotage work under Lily's name. There's a digital fingerprint and a timeline. Ryan's expression wavered. The mask cracked. She's just bitter. He tried again, this time less confidently. She couldn't handle the pressure. I met his eyes. You didn't cut me loose, Ryan. You tried to corner me and burn the exit behind me. And you nearly took down our biggest client deal doing it. Mr. Cole finally turned. I gave you a chance, he said quietly. I gave you more than one. But instead of leading, you undermined the people actually keeping this place afloat. Ryan looked around, as if waiting for someone to jump in on his behalf. No one did. This isn't what you think, he mumbled. No, Mr. Cole said, voice like steel. It's worse. The room fell silent. Then Mr. Cole stood. The board will review the full report, effective immediately. You are suspended. Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came. He looked at Menno with fury this time, but something else. Something closer to fear, or maybe disbelief. Like he had finally realized the playbook that got him this far no longer worked here. He left without a word. I remained seated. Mr. Cole let out a long breath, his shoulders visibly heavy. I failed him, he said. Maybe as a mentor, maybe as a father figure. You can't lead someone who refuses to grow, I said, but you can still lead the rest of us. He nodded slowly, and for the first time in weeks, the grip around my lungs began to loosen. 2 weeks passed, but the ripples from that morning were still felt everywhere. Ryan hadn't returned. The corner office that once held his ego now sat empty, blinds drawn. His smirk had become office folklore, cautionary tales shared in hushed tones near the coffee machine. The board acted quickly. The evidence was undeniable: doctored emails, manipulated spreadsheets, sign-offs forged or deleted, HR misuse, coordinated attacks. The paper trail spoke louder than any defense Ryan could mount. The suspension became a termination. No lawsuit, no headline, just a quiet, backdoor dismissal. But the story spread anyway. Oddly, I didn't feel victorious. I felt balanced. Like the storm had passed, and I'd stayed upright. A few days later, Mr. Cole called me into his office. He closed the door behind me. I've been thinking a lot, he began, about everything that's happened and where we go from here. He gestured to a folder on his desk, but didn't open it. You showed more backbone and clarity in 1 month than some show in their whole career. You protected our reputation. You didn't buckle under pressure. That's leadership. He slid the folder across to me. I opened it. A promotion. Director of Client Strategy. A seat at the executive table, reporting directly to him. I blinked. I didn't ask for this. I know, he said. That's why it means something. I took a breath. If I accept, I want more than just the title. I want a hand in rebuilding this place. No more silos, no more looking the other way. He smiled. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. Later that night, I sat alone in my new office. Temporary walls, borrowed furniture, but the view was real. And for the first time, so was the future I saw waiting on the horizon. The paint was still drying when I stepped into the office that now bore my name. For years, I'd walked these same hallways with my head down, hoping someone would notice the fires I put out before they ever made it to the alarm. The late nights, the last-minute saves, the quiet wins. But in the end, silence hadn't saved mate, had nearly erased me. It took almost losing everything to understand. Being quiet isn't the same as being professional, and being competent doesn't mean you need to shrink to make others comfortable. I had been overlooked, second-guessed, and nearly buried under the weight of someone else's ego, but I hadn't crumbled. I hadn't snapped. And more importantly, I hadn't become what they expected, a bitter, angry shell of a leader. That, to me, was the real victory. In the weeks that followed, I got to work not just on the systems, but on the culture. I rebuilt what had been quietly broken. I met with employees who had left quietly, or nearly had, and offered them a seat at the table again. I restructured how we handled grievances and made sure retaliation would no longer hide behind red tape. And I made it a point to show up for the new hires, the ones watching, silently wondering if they'd ever have a voice here. Some of them stopped me in the hallway, hesitant, grateful, curious. "How did you survive it?" one asked. I told them the truth. You don't always get to choose the storm, but you do get to choose who you become while it rages. As for Ryan, the last I heard, he was floating between firm smaller ones, out of state. No one had said it out loud, but I suspected Mr. Cole had made sure the fallout didn't go public. Maybe it was loyalty. Maybe it was guilt. Either way, I didn't ask. I didn't need to.